In the RRC, the Recovery Revolution Community, we have some amazing online meetings, and one of those is our Tao Recovery Meeting. In this meeting, one chapter of the Tao Te Ching is discussed every week as to how it relates to recovery. I hope you enjoy this week's podcast episode.
Hey everybody, Buddy C. This is the August 22nd, 2019 Tao Te Ching meeting for the Recovery Revolution Community. We have Marla H. and Lala M. and Kate E. and Craig M., which I didn't think he was going to be able to, but we see him working. Well, he's getting paid. He's not working, right? He's just listening in. All right, the 55th chapter of the Tao Te Ching. Kate, we're glad to have you back, dear.
I am very glad to be back.
I put the link in the chat. Would you like to read for us today?
Yep, sure.
Okay. Fire when ready.
All right. 55th chapter, first translation. He who is filled with virtue is like a newborn child. Wasps and serpents will not sting him. Wild beasts will not pounce upon him. He will not be attacked by birds of prey. His bones are soft, his muscles weak, but his grip is firm. He has not experienced the union of man and woman, but is whole. His manhood is strong. He screams all day without becoming hoarse. This is perfect harmony. Knowing harmony is constancy. Knowing constancy is enlightenment. It is not wise to rush about. Controlling the breath causes strain. If too much energy is used, exhaustion follows. This is not the way of Tao. Whatever is contrary to Tao will not last long. Second translation. He who is in harmony with the Tao is like a newborn child. Its bones are soft, its muscles are weak, but its grip is powerful. It doesn't know about the union of male and female, yet its penis can stand erect, so intense is its vital power. It can stream its head off all day, yet it never becomes coarse, so complete is its harmony. The master's power is like this. He lets all things come and go effortlessly without desire. He never expects results, thus he is never disappointed. He is never disappointed, thus his spirit never grows old. Third translation. One who is filled with the Tao is like a newborn child. The infant is protected from the stinging insects, wild beasts, and birds of prey. Its bones are soft, its muscles are weak, but its grip is firm and strong. It doesn't know about the union of male and female, yet his penis can stand erect because of the power of life within him. It can cry all day and never become hoarse. This is perfect harmony. To understand harmony is to understand the constant. To know the constant is to be called enlightened. To unnaturally try to extend life is not appropriate. To try and alter the life breath is unnatural. The master understands that when something reaches its prime, it will soon begin to decline. Changing the natural is against the way of the Tao. Those who do it will come to an early end. Final translation. A person filled with the power of Tao is like a baby boy. Bees can't sting him. Wild beasts can't attack him. A baby has soft bones and weak muscles, but a firm grip. He hasn't had sex, but he can get an erection. That's because he's got lots of energy. He can cry all day and never lose his voice. That's because he's at one with his world. If you're at one with the world, you know constancy. And if you know constancy, you've been enlightened. It's not healthy to try to prolong your life. It's unnatural to impose the mind's will upon the body. People waste time and energy trying to be strong or beautiful, and their strength and beauty fade. They've lost touch with Tao, and when you lose touch with Tao, you might as well be dead.
You lose touch with Tao.
Might as well be dead.
Might as well be dead.
Dead inside.
Do what? Do what, Lala?
You're dead inside.
Yes. Yes. Eric Lynn had some good things to say about all these baby references.
Do
what?
Do share.
Newborn infants denotes a purer and simpler state of mind. It is a state full of bliss and grace. We all experience it as babies, but we forget it as we grow up and become more and more affected by the material world. I thought about that. They're totally in the moment, right?
Babies, yes. But one of the things the verse says is they have a firm grip. So, when a baby grabs onto your finger, it's got a really firm grip. And I think he's talking about that too. They have a firm grip on the Tao.
Yeah, he has one more thing about that. He says, poisonous insects represent the sting of malicious gossip. Wild beasts represent fear and anger. The birds of prey represent greed and envy. The Tao protects cultivators from these dangers just like parents protect infants. To be weak and soft in the context is to have a flexible and yielding approach. The firm grasp is an unwavering determination to reach one's goals. Together, these metaphors depict how we can be determined to achieve and yet still remain flexible in our approach. Sounds almost like a fortune cookie, but... I can see that.
Yeah, very Eastern philosophy.
Yes, yes. Just as babies cry all day without getting hoarse, Tao cultivators who possess the optimum essence and harmony of health can concentrate on difficult tasks for an extended period of time without getting tired. I can see that.
Yeah.
Moderation is extremely important in this process. Tao cultivators do not cultivate physical vitality to excess, nor do they overtax the mind. Okay. Makes a little sense.
Yeah. Bless you.
Thank you. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know. I think this chapter, for me, it's a little extraneous.
It is, Marla. It's, I was looking for the part about it that I like the idea of with a baby is just naturally able to be in the moment, to be content, playing with its feet, I mean, it's just kind of, we lose that as we grow older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one lesson we can learn from this. Then not obsessing over health and beauty. It has all of these on down. It has these comments, several do, about not being obsessed with prolonging your life.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's like the people that obsess over, outer beauty and, outer. It's more like if you're going the way of the Tao, you have that inner beauty that people recognize more as, being authentic, living in your true self versus makeup, plastic surgery, whatever people do. But yeah, it makes me think of if you're going the way of the Tao, you have this inner light, this inner beauty that resonates.
You start waking up that this body's not you, right?
Right. And you don't really care how other people feel about your wrinkles or gray hair.
You live in the moment. You live in
their problem
at the moment.
That would be nice. I'm still very concerned about how I look.
I don't know. I think after living in LA and seeing so much ridiculous plastic surgery, I mean, ridiculous amounts, to the point where it's just like, I love aging. And, you know, there's this song about all the lines across my face show the story of who I am.
Exactly.
I mean, I still color my beard, you know, so it doesn't look so gray.
Well, y'all do little things. It's like nobody just, you know, lets themselves go or anything like that. But I think...
Well, Craig does. Look at him. He can't talk, though. Oh,
No, I can now.
You defend yourself.
Yeah.
See, I let myself go when I got married because I really couldn't be bothered making an impression anymore because I thought I don't need to do it now.
Oh, Craig.
My husband and I have a pact about us. If he gets really, really fat, I'm allowed to take him out in the back and shoot him with a rifle. And the same for me. So we work really hard. You know what? I'd like to think that I work harder at well-being than thinness, but I have to admit I have an eating disorder. So, and that has everything to do with the way I look, not not what I put in my mouth. It has everything to do with what I perceive that I look like. So, it's just living in the real world.
I think I've lost a lot of vanity. I've lost a lot of vanity since I came into recovery. And I think a lot of it comes from working on the basis that what other people think of you doesn't really matter. Because a lot of time I was really conscious of what other people thought, because I always thought that I had to be the one that was there. I thought I was the one that had to have all the answers and look good and do this, that and the other. And see now, after everything that you go through in recovery, it really doesn't make a difference. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm content with what I'm doing. I've got a little bit more grey in my beard because of Buddy, but it just is what it is. I also realise that I'm kind of at the age where metabolism slows down as well, so I'm not going to be processing things as quickly as I should. It takes me a little bit longer to get into shape when I'm training for things, but do you know what? It's just one of those things that happens when you get old.
It is age.
Kate's got all this coming to her. I mean, Kate's still in her 20s.
30s.
Yeah.
30s.
30s. But
Yeah,
I guess I worry less about how my appearance, but I do worry a lot about like looking okay in how I'm living my life in front of people now. I think because I spent so long like being a failure at my life in my addiction, like now I like want to look successful in front of people. Like I want to look like I'm doing good.
That's a positive thing.
I guess it's a positive thing, but I do kind of worry about it a lot. Like, am I looking good? Am I looking successful? Am I looking like I am doing good? Am I looking smart? And am I looking like, I don't know. Like in the, where was it? Let me look back at the text on here. If too much energy is used, exhaustion follows. I sometimes feel kind of exhausted trying to, worrying about like how I'm looking.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't always look that great, so I don't even know if all the effort, like...
Only to you.
Yeah, I think it's only natural. Like, it's part of, for me, the shame of all the crap that people saw when I was drinking, that I feel like I constantly have to overcompensate to show, hey, I'm doing good now. I'm doing good now. I mean, but I think with time it certainly has dissipated a little bit, but it's still like I'm constantly, and it's also for myself, I mean, first and foremost, it's for myself, but I understand the outward needing to overcompensate to show that, hey, I'm doing great now. I'm doing great now. Look at me,
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, Kate. You talked about the exhaustion part of that. And that really is a red flag, that if we're getting exhausted, then that means that we're really pushing to do something within our own effort. So that's working outside of what this is talking about, is being filled with the virtue of the Tao. Okay, that's what this is talking about, is walking in the Tao, really, as a way of life. So if we're feeling exhausted about something, that's a huge red flag for us to look back and say, okay, what am I doing within my own energies here that I need to surrender? You know, what is it that I'm doing? You know, what is Buddy doing to make Buddy better when Buddy needs to surrender that? You know, what area am I not being powerless in, if we want to put it in recovery terms?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the whole forcing thing, you know, when you're forcing something rather than just letting it be as it's supposed to, as it's naturally supposed to be.
Right.
You know, just like I always say, whenever I force anything, it's going against the Tao.
It goes against nature.
It's forcing your own will.
Yeah.
Yeah. We age. We get wrinkled. We get gray. We get fat. Whatever. It's aging.
Yeah.
Well, fat's not aging, though.
No. But when
they say you gain 10 pounds every 10 years or something.
Naturally, that's part of aging?
No, you don't have to.
I talked to a doctor once who said, you know, it typically the trend is every 10 years you put on 10 pounds because your metabolism is slowing. But
okay. Now,
I think there's ways around it, but
there's ways around. Yeah, I've worked really hard not to do that. But with menopause, things start happening to the midsection of your body that is uncontrollable.
Hormonal. There's nothing you can do with hormones.
Guess not.
I'll learn the right diet for me.
You don't have menopause.
You have menopause.
But I have this stuff around my belly. Why do I have that then?
Yeah. That stuff is stress, too. They say that omentum, it's called, or something, omentum fat that goes around the belly is a lot due to stress.
And the chemicals that you put in your body hold fat cells.
Mine was mathematics. I was eating more calories than I was burning.
Exactly. It's that simple.
So, but back to Kate's. Back to Kate's example. That really is a good example of how, you know, we can, when we, even things that may be good, if we're pushing for those things within our own power, how they can be exhausting to us, and how we might need to rethink, and maybe, you know, if you do a fourth step on some of that pride, and what is it here that I'm trying to prove that I don't need to prove? Because there's nothing to prove. Well, how am I trying to look good instead of be good? You know, you know, that kind of a thing, you know, would probably be good to have a conversation with your sponsor about.
Yeah.
Might get some enlightenment on that and be able to walk a little freer with that. I have found for me, when I start doing that, I will invariably have a situation where I don't look good. Like I look bad, when it's like I'll embarrass myself some way or say something that's wrong or something where it's not something that's affecting my sobriety, but if I'm trying to look a particular way, I get humbled. I was on a podcast not long ago, and I misquoted something, and I knew I misquoted it as soon as I said it, and it just it messed with my head, the whole, you know. I said, here I am wanting to look good, and here I do the opposite, you know. And it was good for me, though. And I didn't mention it to the guy, but they went back and edited that part out. You know, they took it out, you know, which is great, you know, but I wasn't going to ask him to. I'd already said, you know, I need to be humbled. I need to misquote something because that's the last thing I want to do, because I want to look like I have it figured out, you know. So that's the kind of thing that for me happens if I let that stuff go long enough. I am corrected one way or the other. So it's good for me when I start spotting it to go ahead and try to deal with it then.
Yeah, it's awareness. It's bringing, being aware of when you're forcing, when you're trying to do something just to look good for others. It's awareness, because once you bring awareness to it, you can make a conscious choice to say, drop it. Okay, I don't need to. I have nothing to prove to anybody.
And, I find when I do that is how silly it is. Yeah. It's like, who am I trying to look good for? It seems so silly. So,
it's also like, who really, I think this comes with age. Now that I'm in my 40s. I mean, in my 20s, I definitely cared a lot more what people think. But it's like, I get those kind of, old coots that kind of sit on the porch and just like are completely, bitching about everything. Because it's like, I think as you get older, you just kind of stop caring so much. I don't know, for me anyway. And also I've just fallen down so many times, like metaphorically, that it's like everybody's seen my crap. So once it happens so many times, it's just like you can't care anymore. It's just like it's desensitized to what people think. I'm like, they have seen much worse than me not applying myself to the extent of what I can. Like the bar is low.
What the ultimate freedom, I think, is to really not care what other people think.
Yeah.
The ultimate freedom. Then you can live in the Tao. It's like, this is how I live, and I'm adamant about it, and,
Well, your priorities change as to who you're trying to please.
Yeah.
That changes because it becomes a spiritual consciousness now that even not trying to please, maybe just trying to surrender is a better word. Trying to be powerless in would be the way I look at that. Because my problem is if I have an issue, it's because I'm not surrendering. I'm not being powerless in an area of life so that I can have the same benefit in that area that I got with alcohol, because that's what I finally had to do. I always go back and look at what I did with alcohol. Okay, if I'm having pride, then I need to surrender this pride. What's behind that? Maybe it's a fear. For me, it would be maybe a fear of not pleasing people, a fear of people not being happy with me, or, a fear of disappointing someone. That's the kind of where my fear goes. So then I surrender those fears, and then my need to please started going away. I had something interesting happen with my wife. When I switched from doing things from her out of duty because I was supposed to, still good side of things, to out of love, I quit thinking I had to do all this stuff. I quit thinking I had to get up and make her coffee and do these other things. I still do it some, but it's not like I must do every little thing. It's kind of odd. I'm probably not explaining that well.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Okay, good. Because the words don't sound correct to me, but it's kind of odd the way it changed, and I no longer thought I needed to perform. It's kind of strange. It's really weird the way that happened, but
because then it becomes work.
Yes, it was effort before, Lala. It was effort.
Yeah, and effort is forcing.
Yes, yes.
When you do it from love, it's like you're enjoying doing it, and you feel good about it. And it actually doesn't even matter how they receive it, like whether they're grateful or not.
And I was even doing less, and she said, something's changed with you. You're, like I was so much better than I used to. I said, wait a minute. Yeah, but it's that, learning to just let this thing flow, and
that's the kind of stuff as I was growing up that made me want to drink, because I was doing things to please people and being somebody that I wasn't, because just to make them happy. And I'm talking really mostly about my parents. And it was so uncomfortable for me that I chose to numb out with drugs and alcohol. So, and now I'm not, and I'm actually enjoying helping my parents out, And they're much happier.
That's that shift to effortlessness in your parents' relationship with your parents. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Knowing harmony is constancy. Knowing constancy is enlightenment. Knowing harmony. Now, Mitchell, I found out yesterday, we were talking about this before, that Mitchell's married to Byron Katie, Stephen Mitchell, that translated this. So I didn't even know that. I listened to a really good, if anyone listens to 10% Happier, Dan Harris, he interviewed Byron Katie, and I heard it yesterday. It's been the last week. I think that's his last episode. So check that out. That really, I'd never heard I never heard her before. So I had no idea what she had. I'm not in that loop. I don't listen to a lot of different people, but really good. It could be helpful stuff for doing 4-step work. It really, I think that would be, I'm going to study her stuff some more. But the way he translated that last stanza I thought was really good. He lets all things come and go effortlessly without desire. So the issue with letting things go is you attach desire to them. He never expects results. Thus, he is never disappointed.
Well, that goes back to like the making the coffee out of effort. Like you need to be expecting somebody to be grateful or thankful versus doing it out of love and it's not being based on getting anything out of it or based on somebody else.
So what that means for me is that for me to be able to let go, I've got to lower my expectations, right?
Absolutely.
So my problem is expectations, and for me that would mean that I'm doing something out of a lower level of consciousness. I'm not doing this out of love. Because only if I'm doing something out of love am I able to let go of expectations, because if I'm doing this out of lower levels of consciousness, then I'm going to expect a result. Good.
And then when you don't get it, it's upsetting and angering and
then you get the resistance.
Yeah, stress, resentment. Yeah. So.
And he translated this as his spirit getting old. So he says he is never disappointed, thus his spirit never gets old.
He doesn't get jaded.
Yes. 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 Good. Let's see. His commentary was pretty good on this too. Talking about the infant. The infant cries all day long. Now this is Stephen Mitchell's commentary. The infant cries all day long without straining its throat. It clenches its fist all day long without cramping its hand. It stares all day long without weakening its eyes. Free from all worries, unaware of itself, it acts without thinking. Doesn't know why things happen, doesn't need to know. That beginner's mind, that in the moment, unaware of itself, it acts without thinking, doesn't know why things happen, doesn't need to know. To know harmony is to know the eternal. To know the eternal is to have insight. To improve upon life is ominous. To control the chi by the mind is aggressiveness. When they are too aggressive, things decay. This is not the Tao. And non-Tao soon ends. So that chi is that energy and vital energy. And so when we try to control it within ourselves, it decays and goes.
So, he talks about forcing the breath in I think all of the translations. So, and in yoga, of course, we do pranayama, which is controlling the breath. It's not a force, but it is, your mind is controlling your breath. But that's for the greater good. It's not detrimental to the health. It's supposed to be enhancing the health.
Well, so, it also helps to focus. It's kind of used as a tool to when they always say focus on the breath, it's to keep the thoughts from monkey mind.
The monkey mind.
Letting those things come and go effortlessly without desire. So you're attaching a desire, Kate, to that. That's why you're growing old in that area of your life. You're having some angst about it, right? Because you're wanting to please, and that's a really good example of how this works. And I can only see it backwards, right? I can only see, I'm angry about, or I'm upset about this particular thing, or I'm tired about this. Then I can look back and say, what am I doing wrong to cause this? Is the way I normally see it. I don't have the foresight to take care of it first. I have to have consequences and then go back and look at it, is how it works for me. And sometimes I'll see it and not deal with it. And then that consequence gets bigger and bigger and bigger until finally either I have to deal with it or it's dealt with for me. And so that's how it seems to happen for me. Anybody else had experience with that?
Trying too hard.
Trying too hard, yes.
Yeah.
I was hoping somebody will say, come on, guys.
But the interesting thing is once you do kind of let go of needing to please and doing things to show, people actually, they're the right people, the people that matter, like notice you're more grounded and you're more serene. You might not be forcing and pushing yourself to, I'm doing this, but they notice the change of, she's kind of, grounded and serene versus just being busy and looking busy. And
it's softening. We're softening.
And it is exhausting to look, to constantly be doing things to look better in people's eyes. And
Hawkins' Letting Go book talks about that. It's really interesting what he says about that. That when we desire something, like to impress someone, our desire to impress them actually keeps us from impressing them.
Yes, it does.
So when we give that up and instead are grateful for the people around us, instead of try to impress them, and just surrender it to the point that it doesn't matter whether they're impressed with us or not. We're just grateful for them being in our life and send love to them. And if we can get to that point, then they truly become impressed with us.
Well, I mean, it's a turnoff when someone's trying too hard. It is. It's a turnoff. And actually, it's like that Leonard Cohen line, it's the cracks that let the light in. It's like intimacy is born by showing each other your flaws and things that's where vulnerability and people actually really bond and connect rather than acting like Superwoman and I have this together and I have this together. It's like really nothing there to bond with. It's
right. You're so right.
A robot.
It's funny. Go ahead, Marla. I'm sorry.
There's no intimacy. While you were talking about that, I'm thinking about the type A personality who's, busy.
Yeah.
Got to be doing something at all times and to perfection. And they're not people that I can relate to on a personal level because they're so busy avoiding life.
Yeah.
They're not really living life. They're avoiding it.
They're forcing, making it look like forcing, I've got it all together, and God forbid one thing, goes wrong, and it's like, they kind of lose it.
Yeah, I had actually a sponsor like that who was this perfection, and we lasted 3 months. That's about it.
I was taught a sales technique to manipulate that years and years ago. That when you had a new client, that you always told them an issue that you had.
Oh.
So that you would create a bond with them. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, you know, how, you know, and I would go and be doing, I said, now I want to tell you, I do all this big stuff and then say, I do have an issue I deal with that I want you to know about, and I'm working on this. And they'd go, what? You know, what? I said, sometimes I don't get my calls returned in a timely fashion. I'm working on it, but I just want you to know that that's an issue that I have that I'm working on. And I want you to, hopefully you'll be patient with me if I don't get back to you as quickly as you think I should. And they're like, wow, I appreciate you telling me that so much. I'm like, what? First time I used it, and I'm manipulating. I mean, this is not because I want to be honest. It's because I want to sell them. So, you know, and there was nothing, you know, noble about it at all. You know, that was a manipulation tool.
Totally.
But it worked.
But you became vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's
well,
what it,
kind of, you know. I mean, I got a bunch of phone calls, and I didn't like returning my calls, and it was always a day or two before I got back to people, so it was perfect, you know. But, you know, you're right, though, Lala. You're right. Okay. Wayne Dyer? You ready for Wayne Dyer, Marla? Anything there that you, that spoke to you?
No, but I did like what I did. On the second page.
Okay.
Do you want me to read the 55th verse again?
I don't think so. It's got it's about the same as the others this time, I think. If you would just want to read the part that you liked.
All right. Verse 55 of the Tao Te Ching invites you to realize that what you call luck isn't something that randomly happens. It's yours for life when you decide to live by letting go. You attract the cooperative power of the Tao when you release the need to control your life. So change your thoughts and see how your life changes to a very fortunate one indeed. Let go and exist in harmony with the Tao in order to build up your immune system to be, quote unquote, lucky about resisting disease and illness. I know that letting go for protection sounds paradoxical, and I suppose you could think of it like that. But try seeing it as a way of allowing life's natural rhythm to flow unimpeded through you. Living by letting go means releasing worry, stress, and fear. And when you promote your sense of well-being in the face of what appears as a danger to others, your alignment with your source frees you from pushing yourself to act in a forceful manner. Lao Tzu reminds you here that things that are forced grow for a while, but then wither away. Visualize yourself as indestructible. Activate an inner picture that will carry you through your perceived dangers. In this visualization, remove the image of your physical body and instead see the part of you that's as constant as a spirit or a thought. This is your essence, and it's incapable of being harmed in any way. From this perspective, you're not threatened by anything, from criminals to cancer, from a common cold to a wild beast. When you live in harmony with the enduring part of yourself, it will contribute to an overall sense of being indestructible. Declare yourself to be that lucky person who goes through life unscathed by freeing yourself from trying to control your perception of looming danger.
Changing the way you look at your potential for becoming a lucky person. Guys, anything?
I don't think I particularly worry about perceived dangers or looming danger.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't do a lot of that.
Well, would that include anxiety? Like, I worry about being anxious about being anxious. I don't know if that's danger.
I think it would apply to any fear, probably, Lala. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, this whole chapter really boils down to one thought for me, more than this fear thing, it's more, for me, it seems to be more about learning to live without disappointment. And all these things we're talking about create disappointment in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm, if I'm in fear in some way, or, if I'm not letting things go, if I'm trying to please people, if I'm overly worried about how I look and how I impress other people, I am going to be disappointed, because there's going to be someone who is not happy with me. It's just life. It happens.
Yeah.
So I've got to surrender all of that and learn that if I'm going to live in the Tao, which would be learning this walk of love, really is what it's about. This virtue that we're talking about to walk in is this walk of giving and not worried about getting, this walk of doing for you instead of for me. That's really the only way that I can live a life without disappointment. And when I think about it, the more I walk this path, the less disappointed I am, because the less I expect.
Correct.
So that's really, for me, is the big takeaway in this whole chapter, is that I can live a life without disappointment. I don't have to I naturally have these abilities that I got as a child, as a baby, that I've lost over time from the world, that I can still live in the moment. I don't have to be obsessed with myself, and I can be happy with where I am and what's going on in this very moment.
I think for me, when I do find myself, let's say I've something little, like I've texted somebody and I'm waiting for them to text back, and I realize I'm getting attached to the outcome, just even little things like that. It's like, it's awareness. I remind myself, hey, I put that out there out of place of love, and, to remind myself not to be attached to the outcome. Little things like that.
Little things. You know what else I like about this chapter, about this guy, what's his name? Wayne Dyer. The idea of changing your thought process of, oh God, I'm the unluckiest person in the world, bad luck follows me, to maybe I'm really lucky, and see how things start to change with that. Of, when you start changing your view and start changing the way you feel about yourself, maybe I'm really lucky, not unlucky. Because I know dwelling in that, I used to feel like I'm so unlucky being an addict. Why me? To like, this is, it's a good thing. It's brought me a lot of awareness about myself. That's what the blessing of being an addict is, in recovery, of course. But
it really is. It's like, oh my gosh, if I hadn't hit the wall with my partying, then I would still be doing the same thing that I was doing for the last 20 years, not growing as a person, not having this whole new lifeline of a second trajectory in life. Right. We wouldn't have the growth.
Wisdom.
For me, the real gift in that, and I've thought about this a lot, if I would not have had a life-threatening issue like alcoholism, I would never have learned to surrender and be powerless in any area of my life.
Agreed.
And it took 6 years of suffering in AA for me to learn that. So it wasn't something that came easy for me, even when it was life-threatening, even when it almost killed me, even all these things, it still took so much time and effort, and really to the point of suicide, before I really surrendered that. So I would not have done that if it would not have been to that point. So I would have never learned how to surrender. And once I learned that in one area of life, it helped me to start doing that in all these other areas.
Everything. It's just everything in life. It's like instead of living from the ego, you learn humility and humbleness, and then that's when real growth starts.
I think so too.
Yeah, it was quite a gift. I never have bought into luck, that there was such a thing. But I always waited for the other shoe to drop. Like, this is not going to turn out good. I would always have that flip side of that, though. I didn't call it luck. It was just, nothing's going to work for me right. There's always going to be a problem, that kind of a thing. And what I've learned is, think about this. If the earth, nature is ever expanding. If you call the way of the Tao, the way of, think about it like the Big Bang, whatever you think about as far as God is ever expanding. The universe is ever expanding now. Still.
The big rip.
Yes. Now, when we get all this negativity and this self out of the way, there's nothing left to do but for us to flourish and grow and expand too. So it's not an issue really with, it's going to happen. It's just like if we have this drop of God within us, this drop of love within us, when we get the negativity out of the way, we don't have to force ourselves to give and love. We just start naturally doing it. That's been my experience. How about y'all? That been what y'all have experienced? Yeah, you don't naturally start hating people. You get rid of that and you hate more people, You get rid of that and you just start giving and loving and wanting to do for people. I find myself now, my first thought is, what can I do for them? I go out and eat with people and I want to buy their meal, I'm like, what is this? It's not like I don't want to impress them. It's not that, if you're talking about an impressing thing, it's not that I want to impress them, that I want to buy their meal. I just want to do something nice for them.
And the relationships have so much more depth than when you're people pleasing.
Yes.
Pleasing, it's a very shallow kind of, I'm looking for their acceptance, I'm looking for their approval. But when you, like you said, do things out of love, these are real relationships. These are real bonding depth.
Yeah, I was out with some guys from AA. I was down in Daytona, and I didn't know when I'd ever see these guys again. And I said, let me buy your meal, because I just wanted to do something nice for them. Not that I was expecting something in return or wanted to impress them in any way. It had nothing to do with any of that. And just learning, you just naturally start giving. So I think that there's nothing left for us to do when we start getting all that negativity out of the way in our life, for us just to start flourishing and growing and smiling and being happy and all those things. That was definitely my experience in recovery. Definitely.
I was just with family members for quite a while because we were on this trip. And I have some family members that don't do things the way that I think they should be done. And so, like, at first, in my mind, I was like, I have to show them exactly what they're doing wrong, tell them what they're doing wrong, and get them to change it immediately. Because I cannot tolerate being here and have them acting like this for the next 3 weeks. And, I tried it for like half a day, and it was not working. No one was listening to me. Everyone was getting like kind of irritated. And no one was listening to me anyway when I was telling them exactly how they should be doing everything right. So, like, I had to reevaluate myself and where I was coming from. And, like, I realized that I could spend all my time being irritated and annoyed and probably being kind of a brat. Or I could, like, let it go. Just be happy, be in a good mood. Let them be how they are. Let me be how I am, and have a good time.
There you go.
So that was kind of my example of, like, letting go that I had lately, and it worked fine.
Good job.
I let them be how they are. And I tried to think about, like, while I was in my addiction, like, they were very loving and kind to me, even though I was, like, awful, I'm sure, which I was.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It
worked fine. I was good. We had a great time.
It's acceptance. It's like the thing in the Serenity prayer. Accept the things that you cannot change. Like, we can't change the people. We can only change our reactions to them.
Right. So that's like, I don't know. That was kind of a big deal for me because I like to have people do what I think they should do, but they're not doing what I think they should do, and it still worked out fine.
How dare them, Kate?
Really?
Wow.
That's just like that Mitchell quote from this chapter. He lets all things come and go effortlessly, without desire. He never expects results, thus he's never disappointed. He is never disappointed, thus his spirit never grows old. Goes back to being the baby again, those baby characteristics. So his spirit never grows old, which is the goal anyway, right?
Right.
And the bottom line is we have no control over life. No control.
You know, when I first heard that Serenity prayer, the things I can change versus the things I can't,
Yeah.
There were so many things in this things I can change side and so little in the things I can't. You know, it's like a seesaw, just gone the other direction. Now there's almost nothing in the things I can change and all this stuff over here in the things I can't.
That's surrender.
That is surrender. You're exactly right, Marla. And then what's the other phrase with the Serenity prayer that I heard recently? The one I can change.
The wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, but knowing the one I can change, not, I forget exactly how they said it. But basically what they were saying was there's only one you can change, and that's you. And that only comes from surrender. I can't do it myself, you know. So
also that, Kate, that whole forcing thing, when you're forcing people to act the way you want them to, that is exhausting because it's, first of all, never going to happen.
Right.
And it's exhausting you by being like annoyed by them not doing what you want. So it's
right. It was a complete fail.
It's a complete fail. Imagine people doing that to you, though. I wanted Kate to act the way I want her to act.
I know. I'm sure it was super annoying.
Yeah. So
control, like people trying to control you. Oh yeah, I love that.
Well,
God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know that person is me.
yeah. That's it.
That's it.
That's
So
it.
if I want to be happy and not be disappointed, I've got to learn how to do this and let it go.
Navigating through life.
Good. Any closing comments, or are we all good?
I'm not going to resist closing this meeting.
Sounds good. Y'all have a great week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. For more information about the RRC, the Recovery Revolution Community, go to omarpinto.com and click on the link that says Recovery Revolution Community. Once you join the RRC, you'll be able to participate in this meeting and many more live, plus access to a video library of past meetings and many more benefits for being a part of this growing community. Thanks again for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share this podcast with your friends in recovery.